Season 14 is finally here. Looking at the new items, support has definitely shaken up quite a bit. But not to worry, my fellow summoners, because in this video I'll be going over the new support item called Worldatlas and analyzing which of the 5 upgrades you will want to evolve for. If you're new to this channel, you will discover that I will be primarily explaining these support quests from a Maokai support perspective. However, I promise that you will still find much value from this video as a general support player, since I will touch upon the other support classes which synergize well with each support quest. In Season 14, all support players, regardless if you are ranged or melee, will now purchase a single item to start the game called Worldatlas. This item provides you with 2 methods to stack your support item before it upgrades into your standard warding item. Firstly, you can stack your support item by executing a minion below 50% max health if you're melee or 30% max health if you're ranged. Regardless of the minion you execute, you will always be earning 20 gold with Worldatlas. Not to worry though, since your nearby lane partner will still receive the full gold value of the executed minion. This means that there should be almost no chance of missing cannon minion gold due to poor CSing. Secondly, you can stack your support item by either damaging an enemy champion or a structure, which will earn you either 30 or 28 gold depending if you are a melee or ranged character. Overall, the new Worldatlas support item feels like I'm generating gold a lot faster, since I not only have 2 methods to stack my support item, but it also now passively generates 3 gold per 10 seconds, versus the old 2 gold per 10 seconds passive. Additionally, the support item now provides both base mana regeneration and health regeneration, which is superb on any support champion. I've always been in the mindset that I'd rather have additional regeneration stats rather than flat AP or AD on my items, since doing damage has never been what I think a support's primary motive is. Support is supposed to be about using your abilities to create beneficial teamfight scenarios for your carries to deal damage. I want to set up my teammates for success, not be a greedy kill stealer. In terms of the mana regen, mana has never been a huge issue on Maokai support, but this will most definitely provide him with the option of skipping a mana related rune while still being able to comfortably use saplings for scouting purposes in all those new bushes for Season 14. Within the first 2 waves of the game, however, unless you see a great engage angle early on, you will still most likely want to save your stacks for the second wave and execute 2 melee minions to get that level 2 power spike as soon as possible. Reaching level 2 first is a major priority for Maokai support, such that you can all in with your WQ combo. Once you've stacked your item to 500 gold, your Worldatlas will transform into Runic Compass, and similar to previous support items, you will gain more base stats in terms of health regen, mana regen, and HP. You'll also have the ability to place up to 3 stealth wards on the map. While you stack your item, make sure to pick up a Boots of Speed and consider transforming them into tier 2 boots as soon as you can. Overall, it'll be a lot easier to stack your item to 1000 gold for the next transformation of your support item into Bounty of Worlds, as both executing and damaging an enemy champion will provide you an additional 28 to 34 gold. When you finally have Bounty of Worlds, this is where the fun begins. You can now upgrade your item by selecting one of 5 upgrades just above your inventory. The 5 upgrades you can choose from includes Celestial Opposition, Solstice Sleigh, Zaz'zak's Realmspike, Bloodsong, and Dreammaker. The first upgrade choice I'll cover is Celestial Opposition. This is probably the most standard and most obvious choice for tank supports like Maokai, as it essentially acts as an additional aftershock for those crazy engages. Upon taking damage, melee champions get a reduction of 35% damage, while ranged champions get a reduction of 25% damage. You also get an additional effect of slowing nearby enemies 2 seconds afterwards, making it difficult for them to escape. Before Season 14 started, I really did think that this item would be super overpowered, but due to a couple of nerfs for live patch, it's actually been fairly balanced. The tankiness feels just as you would expect. However, the biggest drawback with Celestial Opposition is that it's on a 20-second cooldown effect and it only refreshes once the user has been out of combat. This means you can really only proc this item's passive once per teamfight, which unfortunately isn't as strong as I'd originally thought. After playing on the live patch in Season 14 for about a week, I've actually noticed that this item may be more well suited for enchanter supports in niche situations. This item does provide less damage reduction for ranged supports, but it acts as a superb Crown of the Shattered Queen passive for enchanters who don't want to be one-shot by assassins or by a heavy engage comp. I understand that the more standard upgrade for enchanters is going to be Dreammaker, which we will briefly touch upon in a bit, but having a free shield versus a fed assassin could be the difference between life or death for squishy enchanters such as Janna, Nami, or Milio. Lastly, you can always switch support quests for a low cost of only 240 gold. For example, if you upgraded your Bounty of Worlds into Dreammaker but notice you are being one-shot too easily against a fed assassin, you can sell your support item for 160 gold and repurchase Bounty of Worlds for 400 gold. Your item will remain fully stacked, meaning you can select a new support upgrade, for example Celestial Opposition, to acquire a form of survivability. So you may be wondering, if Celestial Opposition isn't your go-to upgrade for Maokai support, what is? The support transformation that I have actually been loving most recently is Solstice Sleigh. This transformation causes you and the nearest most wounded ally to heal 120 health and gain 90 bonus movement speed for 4 seconds each time you slow or immobilize a champion. At first glance, I was a bit underwhelmed by the 120 health bonus since that only represents a small fraction of Maokai's support health pool, but what I ended up overlooking was just a few things. Firstly, your ally also receives a 120 health bonus, which is a much larger percentage of health for a squishy carry. It also prioritizes the ally who is most wounded, which is another great benefit. If we compare this to the summoner spell Heal, proccing Solstice Sleigh is basically half a summoner spell, and it's only on a 20-second cooldown. Secondly, both you and your ally gain a 90 bonus movement speed for 4 seconds. If you haven't guessed already, movement speed is one of the most crucial stats for Maokai support, as it helps him maneuver in teamfights a lot more easily, so that he can actually end up either rooting people or proccing his passive on enemies. The fact that this movement speed buff lasts 4 seconds is actually insanely long, allowing you to easily stick onto targets who simply want to run away from you. Maokai's entire kit has both slows and immobilization, so it's pretty much impossible not to make the most out of Solstice Sleigh's passive. Even a sapling from across the map can activate its passive, giving your teammate a decent health and movement speed boost. The only drawback with this item is that you will be slightly less tanky than if you went with the Celestial Opposition transformation, but you gain a ton of utility by both healing a nearby ally and zipping in and out of teamfights. I like to compare purchasing Solstice Sleigh as giving Maokai a mini phase rush rune. Even as a ranged support champion, as long as your kit has some sort of slow in it, you can purchase Solstice Sleigh for that additional movement speed buff. This works on champions such as Nami when using your E ability on an ally, or Zyra's E plant that is procced on an enemy champion. The next potential Maokai support item that Riot has introduced is Zaz'zak's Realmspike. Wait a minute, am I the only one who thought this item was called Zaz'zak for the longest time? Zaz'zak honestly sounds way better. Anyways, there isn't too much to say about which supports should build this item, other than this is your standard typical AP support item where you want to deal more AP damage with champions such as Xerath, Zyra, or Lux. Upon dealing damage, Zaz'zak's passive will create a small explosion of 50 magic damage plus 3% of the target's maximum health with relatively low cooldown between 9 and 6 seconds. This support upgrade wouldn't be my most highly recommended support item for Maokai, but it can be a very fun support item to use on him. If you aren't worried about grinding the solo queue ladder and want to reinvigorate your love of this game by playing Emax Maokai, Zaz'zak's saplings will make your enemy super frustrated. Running into one of these saplings reminds me of running into a Teemo mushroom, and we all know how annoying that can be. Combining this item with the updated Liandry's Torment, Maokai saplings will make the new rift a minefield of damage. What's great is that the Void Explosion passive only activates if the sapling does damage to the enemy. If Maokai saplings connect, it also causes the enemy to be slowed, meaning they won't be able to avoid Zaz'zak's damage. If for whatever reason your sapling hasn't dealt damage in a while, but instead you've caught someone in your typical WQ combo, make sure not to knock the enemy unit out of the Zaz'zak explosion. The AP build that I tested out with the support quest on Maokai support is going full AP with Phase Rush. Phase Rush allows you to dip in and out of teamfights to avoid taking any unnecessary damage. Since you are full AP Maokai, your damage will be scary, but your health bar will not. You have to make sure you unload your damage and then escape quickly as you wait for your cooldowns to reappear. I'd suggest building Liandry's Torment as your primary AP damage item, followed by some tanky items. As a reminder, this is a more for fun build that I would only suggest to use in a normal game or you simply like living life on the edge. If you haven't heard the news already, Even Shroud has been removed from the game, but is instead somewhat replaced with this new support upgrade item called Bloodsong. Even Shroud used to give your carries a 7% damage buff upon CC, which was obviously great for Maokai since his entire kit is all about CC. Bloodsong, on the other hand, still gives your team a damage buff, but is only procced after you use both an ability and an auto attack on a key target. The auto attack will apply 150% base AD damage and then expose weakness, causing the champion to take either 8 or 12% increased damage depending on if Bloodsong's user is a ranged or melee support. It's still early in the season, but Leona and Nautilus seem to be current Bloodsong winners when they don't require as much tankiness in teamfights and are able to easily proc Spellblade against enemy champions. Given this overall description, it does seem like Bloodsong could be viable on Maokai support since he can cast abilities fairly easily and has one of the highest base attack speeds in the game. However, it will definitely be harder to use since you will lack the tankiness from the more typical item Celestial Opposition and the massive utility given by Solstice Sleigh. I will mention though that Bloodsong can be a super tricky item to build simply because the other support upgrades passives can be easier to proc compared to Bloodsong. If the support isn't able to land their auto attack due to range differences, they won't be able to effectively use Bloodsong's passive on key targets. I wouldn't be surprised if this support quest is therefore the least upgraded choice for all supports, despite its incredible damage potential. As of this recording though, it does seem that Riot have already released some early patch notes to combat the insane 12% damage amplification. I also originally had a short section in this video dedicated to the double support tech involving Bloodsong that had been steadily rising in play rate, but it seems that the Riot balance team has been on top of things and is ready with the nerf hammer. After these nerfs, it may be possible that Bloodsong is simply an upgrade reserved for very specific AD supports such as Senna or Pyke, or supports that can easily proc Spellblade such as Sona or Bard. And lastly, we have Dreammaker. This support upgrade refreshes every 8 seconds and causes the user to gain a blue and purple bubble. Upon healing or shielding an ally, excluding yourself, you will empower the ally to reduce incoming damage by 140 and grant their next auto an additional 90 damage with your bubbles. This support item essentially only works on enchanter supports, so if you haven't guessed already, this is the one support item I wouldn't recommend building on Maokai support. I'd be highly skeptical if someone out there can figure out how to use this item for Maokai support, but if it turns out it is viable, then this item is absolutely broken on actual healing and shielding supports, and in that hypothetical scenario, Riot really must have screwed up the meta. Now, before I end off this video, I do want to touch upon just one last support item that has been newly introduced into Season 14, and that is Trailblazer. As a Maokai support main, I love this item. It almost feels like it was specifically built for Maokai support. It provides armor, health, and most importantly, movement speed, all for a low cost of 2,500 gold. You can think of it like a support version of Deadman's Plate. Trailblazer's passive Lead the Way grants you an additional 20 bonus movement speed simply by moving on the map. When it is fully stacked, you leave a small path behind you that grants allies 15% of your bonus movement speed. Additionally, as a melee support, your next basic attack against an enemy champion also discharges the stacks, causing them to be slowed for 1 second. As I mentioned in a previous video, Void Grubs are a must-fight objective in Season 14, meaning having an early Winged Moonplate plus Tier 2 boots will help you roam around the map contesting objectives. Building Trailblazer first means you will be able to apply pressure around the map and gain an early lead by acting as an early secondary jungler. The general idea is that you want to abuse your movement speed such that it is extremely difficult to run away from you while being very tanky. By running around the map as a second jungler, Maokai support can theoretically tilt all 3 lanes in the early game such that the enemy team is tilted to a point of no recovery. The neat thing about Trailblazer is that this item is very viable on any melee support such as Rakan, Blitzcrank, Alistar, oh, and that other roaming range support champion, Bard. Overall, it's safe to say that I'm super excited for Maokai support this season and can't wait to see how he will fit in the upcoming meta. I know there are still a ton of items I haven't covered in this video for Maokai support, but I promise the Season 14 Maokai support guide is coming soon. In that video, I'll have a more structured guide detailing the most optimal build paths, runes, and playstyle. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of that upcoming content. As always, if you like this content, make sure to hit that like button, it really does help. Thank you so much for watching this video. Feel free to let me know what you're most excited about for the support role in Season 14.